Monsignor John Kasza from St. James Parish in Novi, Michigan. And we're continuing our self-help series, and this particular topic is that of annulments. The annulment process has gotten a lot of press lately, especially with Pope Francis's revamping of the annulment procedures. And I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what the annulments are all about. First of all, when we look at marriage, there are two aspects to marriage. There's the first aspect of marriage is that it is a civil contract. And everyone has a right to marry. And it's a union of two people, a man and a woman, for the benefit of society. And so the church sees all marriage as being what's called a natural marriage. That is, that a man and a woman come together in a civil ceremony of some kind for the benefit of society, for the building up of the family, for helping to continue the goodness of society in general. But with Christ comes an additional dimension, and that is that marriage is also a sacred covenant. And this is what we call a sacrament. And again, when the church puts this additional layer or dimension to it, it says that when a man and a woman come together, they image Christ and the church. So that this additional layer kind of gives another dimension to what marriage is all about. So when we look at annulments, an annulment basically means a dissolution or an ending of a marriage. Now, a civil contract usually is dissolved via a divorce. Okay. Now, in some jurisdictions, they call it a civil annulment, okay, which basically says that this particular contract, again, the word contract here, is null and void. However, when two people who are baptized get married, they create a sacramental encounter, and they image Christ and the church. So although the civil contract may be null and void, maybe as a result of divorce, the sacramental bond still remains. And so this particular aspect here, in order to dissolve a sacramental marriage, you need to have what's called an annulment. Or to be more clear, a church annulment. Okay? Again, we're dealing with two aspects of marriage, civil versus sacred, or civil versus religious. Okay, so two baptized persons, whether they get married in a Catholic church or get married in another church, get married outside the church, two baptized persons create a sacramental bond. So in the annulment process, they look and they say, did this sacred bond even occur? Were they in the right state of mind? So when a person gets married, obviously, people get married for various reasons. Civilly, they may get married because they love each other. They may get married because they got drunk and they were in Vegas one week and decided to get married. They may get married because They want to unite families. Okay? Sometimes people don't go through adequate marriage preparation. And so, in the sacred covenant of marriage, the church says, were these people of sound mind when they said yes? So they look at previous things that went on. So, for example, was there an existence of an impediment prior to them getting married? For example, was there someone under the influence of drugs or alcohol when they got married? Was someone didn't have the intention to really fulfill the marriage contract? Sometimes people are psychologically incapacitated. They don't have a full understanding of what marriage is. And so they decide, well, we'll get married, but then later on they realize, I really should never have gotten married. Sometimes people have no intention of fulfilling their marriage contract. They say, yeah, I'm going to get married, but I don't intend to have children. Or I don't intend to live this marriage till the end of our lives. Or I'm entering this marriage as I'm going to do it just for a time period, and after 10 years I'm going to get out. So they don't intend to do what the church intends. Sometimes people base it on a pre-existing contract. They say, well, I have an expectation that my husband or my wife will achieve a certain level of income. Or they may have a prenuptial agreement in which they say, well, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, instead of the full blending of the lives. So there's something that prevents them from fully entering the sacred covenant. And that's what the church looks at. So when a person gets divorced, the procedure is this. Two couples, they marry. They decide it doesn't work out, so they get divorced. Civilly. Then the Catholic party decides that really I should look at an annulment. And then so what they do is they seek out an annulment. The first thing is they say, we visit the priest to discuss their case. They fill out the paperwork in which they describe their attitudes and opinions prior to the marriage. They look at everything that happened before the person entered the sacrament of marriage. And then this is sent to the tribunal. The tribunal people review the material and they render a judgment. Now, this process for an annulment may take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, depending on the workload of the tribunal. So when someone seeks an annulment, they really have to understand it's going to take some time. Pope Francis is trying to shorten this procedure. So once that procedure is in process, the person then can really recognize that his or her case is proceeding. And as it proceeds, they'll get regular updates. And then finally, once the judgment comes down, if the judgment is in the affirmative, that is that the annulment goes through, the person then is free to marry in the church. If the annulment comes through as a negative, then the person has an option of reopening the case, providing new testimony, providing more information, etc. But the idea is that there's, again, to reiterate, natural marriage can occur between two human beings. It's a civil contract. But when two baptized people, a man and a woman, get married in the church, and they recognize that their marriage is a sacrament, the church looks at that and says, well, sometimes marriages don't work out. So civilly you may decide to break the marriage, but then you have to look at the sacred bond. Is the bond still present? And this is what the church looks at. They look at this sacramental aspect. I encourage you to read up on annulments. There are several pamphlets available. Many churches have them. They look something like this. What the church teaches on annulments. You can also talk to your parish priest. And usually your tribunal has a website that will walk you through the process. Ideally, marriages should be for a lifetime, but we know that marriages sometimes do not work out. In the case where they don't work out, try to seek an annulment as a way of helping you to heal from that difficulty, as a way of walking you through the process to really understand that the church wants you to be happy and wants you to be holy. And this annulment process gets you on that road to doing that. So I encourage you to really ask your parish priest, if you are in a situation where you've been divorced, ask him to help you out through the annulment process. And recognize above all that God calls each one of us to his kingdom. And so this annulment process is a way of helping you to get closer to God by recognizing God's love, God's mercy, and God's peace.